Hi crafters, this is Crafty Sabby and I'm back today to share the tutorial for these tag pockets that I posted a few days ago. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who watched and left comments, and almost every one of you asked for a tutorial on this, so how could I not go ahead and do one? So let's get started. I'm not going to go through all of them again, but essentially what we're going to accomplish today is using a couple of tags, making a pocket out of it, and then just filling it with some ephemera. And I think I've kind of put together a couple of options here, whether it be this little card that we put inside, or this little journal, or something like it. So this was the favorite amongst most of you, so that's what we're going to do. We'll make a little book, and the book that we're going to put in is actually, or the little journal that we're going to put in is actually something that I have a video on already, and so that just made it a little bit easier. So you could go back and watch that video and use it for inside of here because it fits in there perfectly. So, and I'll put all the links for stuff down below, okay? So let's get started. We're just gonna put these up here. So the first thing you're gonna need are a couple of tags. And your tags need to be 3 by 6, and you need a total of 2 of them. And when I say they need to be, I guess that's probably, you can make these probably any size you want. But this is the size that I chose to do. I think they would fit nicely into a journal, and just a good size, big enough but not too big and bulky. So these tags are 3 by 6. So these are just cut out of some regular cardstock just so I could show you. What I did was go to my stash. I probably posted somewhere a long time ago on another video. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just take a few paper pads and go in front of the TV and cut some things out and prepare some things so that I have them ready. And that's what happened in this instance with these. So I had a bunch of tags ready, made, and I used those. So I cut some tags just out of a paper pad that I liked, and that's what first thing I went to. I didn't have to make anything, it was already done for me. So you just need to, and then you turn them back to back. So then I'll show you the next step. It was very difficult to use my sewing machine to show you the actual process of me sewing them in front of you. So I broke down the steps, and so that you'd be able to see exactly what I did. So now I found 2 tags that I wanted to use. And these aren't going to be the same ones that we're going to finish with, but just to give you an idea, this is sort of just broken down step by step. So here's my 2 tags that I chose to use. You're going to want to punch a hole if you would like to attach some lace down the line. And these little hole punch circles, I just get them at the dollar store. They come on sheets like this. And this is just a little tip for you. They're white when you get them, but I come home and I get all my distress inks that I like, that I think are gonna match most of my projects, and I color multiple sheets with them and just have them ready for when I need them. There's black ones, and so that's what I do. So those are always ready for me when I want to reach for one. So that's just a little tip, and I put those on both sides there. And so the next thing that you're going to want to do is, we have to sew this in kind of steps if you're going to sew it. Now you don't have to sew anything. You could just go ahead and glue together your 3 sides. So you're going to want to glue across the bottom, up the left side, and then across the top of your tag, stopping right here in the corner. And the reason I say to stop there is because, and I'll show you my boo-boo here, is I needed a little bit more room when I put my stuff inside, and I had it sewed sewn close right to this corner here, and it wasn't enough room for me, so I actually ended up tearing it on that one. So if you're going to use your glue, and even now if you're going to use your sewing machine, I would suggest not sewing that little right hand top corner shut, okay? And I'll show you now. So you're going to take your 2 tags and you're going to go to your sewing machine. And in order for the whole tag to look finished, that it's been sewn around all edges, you're going to need to take one piece and you're going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to start from there and you're going to stitch across to there and then all the way down the right hand side. Okay? So you're going to do that on the one that's at the front, and then you're going to take your other tag, making sure that you sew it on the right side. So you need to, this is what I mean, right? Because this tag has to go this way once you join them together. So you have to make sure that your sewing is on the correct side, okay? So I just ran this one through my sewing machine really quick, and then when I went to do this one, I just turned it over and did it on the opposite side. So left and right. Okay, so that when you join them together, they're sewn on both sides. So eventually, when we either glue or sew the rest of this shut, this is going to stay open because this is the pocket, but it's going to look like, you know, well, not, it is going to look sewn on the edges so that everything is completely finished, okay? So that's your first step. You go and you take each individual tag and you sew across there and down the side, and then you're going to do the same thing for this tag, left and right hand sides, okay? So that's your first step. So now we have that done. Then when you have that left and right side sewn, you're going to go back to your sewing machine and or your glue, and you're going to finish this off. So if you're going to glue it, then like I said, start at the top, glue across the top of the tag, down the side, all the way down the left side and across the bottom. And now the same thing if you're going to go to your sewing machine and sew this, okay? So now we already made this pretty edge here, there. So now you're gonna go back to your sewing machine and you're gonna sew across the top, down the little edge here, and down your left-hand side and across the bottom. So that when that's all done, you've now created a pocket. A nice pocket that looks all finished and complete, okay? So that's your next step. So I'm going to keep this tag here because I think we're just going to keep on going with this one. So now we want to get the little envelope put on the front. So I'm talking about this little exploding envelope that you open up and there's like little hidden treasures in there, paper for you to write on, okay? So that's what we're going to work on now. So that's what we want to put right here on the front. So this is back to our raw tag. So just for the sake of it, looks like I've, you know, done all my sewing, and then we're going to now create this little envelope. Okay? It's also a little pocket on the top. If you want, you could close that or do whatever you want to, but I wanted to keep it open so that I could add a few more extra bits of ephemera inside the pocket. So for that, you're gonna need, get organized here. You're gonna need your envelope punch board. And I had to create these measurements on my own. Lord help us all. Me and math. I think I've told you this before, but I actually figured it out and made the correct size envelope. And then anyhow, so you're going to need a piece of paper that is 4.5 by 4.5, so exactly square. And we're going to take that piece of paper and we're going to punch at 2 3/8 on your envelope punch board, okay? So let's have a quick look at that again. I'll just hold it here for a second. 4.5 by 4.5, and then we're going to punch at 2 3/8 on your envelope punch board. And so here's my piece of paper that I chose to use. My tag happens to have a little bit of pink in it, so I found this old vintage ledger paper that has pink lines running through it. So I'm going to use that. And I'm going to put this in my envelope punch board at 2 3/8, just like we said. So just there. You're going to punch and score. And you're just going to keep turning it until you got all 4 sides done. Whoops. Yep, we punched that one. I may have just went through that. I don't know. This paper is very old. Okay, so we won't be needing this anymore. Okay, so there's that all scored up. So now you just go ahead and fold it on the scored lines. Oops, see, it did tear. Oh, goodness me. Anyway, we're just gonna keep going, and then I can always fix that later. So maybe that's another tip right there. Be careful what kind of paper you use. You probably want something a little bit more sturdy than what I used here, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to use this one. The next thing that you're going to want to do is add the papers to your envelope. So I don't think I measured any of these, but I went to my scrap bag. I was telling you guys last time that I have, like, I got these all over the place, little bags and some things, envelopes of stuff, but this little one happens to have a little bit longer papers, scraps and ends that I cut. So I just reach for that when I'm making these little books. And I just took out a bunch of papers that I like, and I cut them down to, let's see, it's about a 5 1/4 by just over 2 1/4, like literally just over 2 1/4 there. And that should fit inside of your envelope. And so just really quickly, I'm going to show you how I attach my pages. So I know already that if I take this to my sewing machine and try to attach these pages into my envelope, I'm going to tear the paper. And for some reason, I do all the time. Other crafters have success at sewing that way, but I don't for some reason. So I'm just going to go back to sewing it in as if we were sewing in a signature. I like to double mine up. And so you're going to go in through, so these are our folded pages here. That's my crease. I want to go to the middle of my crease and poke a hole. And you don't have to measure, just eyeball it. We're not here to spend, you know, all of our time just making holes. Just find the center as much as you can and put your needle all the way through. And then you're going to go to your envelope. And you want to go on the left-hand side over here on the crease, and you're going to want to, and this is kind of the way I cheat it. I just kind of find where my papers will fit within the envelope, and I eyeball it. If you center it, and then I use my needle to poke through the edge of the envelope also, and then you're going to pull your thread. And you need a little bit to tie with, so I just leave that there. A tail about that long, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches or 2. And then I want to take my needle and I want to go now through the top, maybe about 1/4 inch from the top there inward. And just make sure you're going through the crease of the paper. And I'm going to poke another hole and pull through, Okay. So that's what you have now. You're on the inside. Now you're going to take your needle and you're going to go back through the first hole that you made in the center of the booklet, and you're going to get through all of that again, and you're going to come out the bottom. So now that's what you have. Now you're on the outside again, and now you're going to go to the other side and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come down or in just a 1/4 of an inch, and you're going to poke another hole through all of your papers. And it doesn't have to be perfect because you're really not even going to see it. And you're going to poke through everything, and you're going to pull your needle through just like that. And now you've attached your papers to your book. Okay, you just made a binding. So now I go ahead and tie a knot in mine, and I like to tie my knot in the center right there. And this is where I wish sometimes I had many more hands, but I just kind of make a knot here. Pull tight on everything. Oops. I kind of just use my nail to hold down the center, and I pull. Yes, that looked very sloppy because it was. But anyway, you get the point. You just want to be able to get a knot in there, okay? And that's it. Your pages are now attached into your envelope, just like that. So now at this point, I want to get my tag back, and I glue this down because you can't sew it now because you've made a pocket, but I'm going to glue this. You can use wet glue, and you guys know I use my glue gun for everything, but I'm going to use my wet glue this time because I just want to make sure that this always stays on. And I'm going to put just a little bead down here, and then across the bottom, and then on the other side. I'm leaving the top open, like I said before, because I would like to put tags and such down into there, okay? So now I'm going to fix this right to the bottom of my tag. Or you could leave a little space, whatever you want. Just like that. Okay, now we have attached our envelope. All right. So that'll just take a minute to dry. Okay, so then the other thing that I have are these little, I got these at my dollar store. These are, they're called a lot of things. I call them hook and loop because that's, or Velcro, whatever it is, but you want the little rough side and then the little fuzzy side. But these little dots are super small and super cute, but they work on a lot of projects. So you're going to take, I'm just thinking what else you could do. If you could maybe use a magnet, I'm not too sure, but you guys could find a closure or some way to keep it down. Go ahead and do that. Maybe just like even a sticker that's not so sticky. I'm not too sure, but I just found that this kind of worked the best for me. So I just take 2 of those, and I'll put it on here and then push down, and then you have the ability to open and close it. And then I made this little doily. So this is just a white doily and a little piece of a sort of cream colored one here. I used an old button, put a little sewing through it, and just created that to hide my little, or not to hide, but to put over top of my closure there. So that's all that is. You could probably put anything there. You have little butterflies or little other pieces of fabric or stickers. You can go ahead and put whatever you'd like there. I'm going to put a wobble glue on there. And I'm going to stick this down without making sure you don't stick anything else or close anything else that you're not supposed to. Just like I almost did. Okay. And that's that. That's that done. Okay, and then we're going to make some things for inside the pocket here. Okay, so I was sticking with the pinks like I told you before. So a couple things you can do. You can do anything you want. Inside here I had, like I showed you, this little index card. And on this index card, all I did was I took a napkin. These are very beautiful napkins that I got. Okay, and you're going to want to take it down. Most of them are 3-ply, some are 2, but some are 3. And you're going to want to, and it's not going to happen now, of course I'm on camera, but you're going to want to take that napkin down right to the last ply of napkin. So that little piece that you're left with the pattern on it is super, super thin. And with that, you're able to use some Mod Podge. That's Mod Podge. And you can use matte or glossy, whatever you had. I just used whatever I had. And put your napkin down. I put Mod Podge down, put my napkin. In this case, I actually put some book page down first with the Mod Podge, and then I used a piece of napkin on top. And I did the back and the front, so it's nice and hard and stable. So that's one idea. And then also inside of there is these little coin envelopes that I got. I just did some distress ink on them. And then again, if you put distress ink on them first and then you put Mod Podge on and you brush it, you'll notice that the distress ink moves. And it kind of gives you this leathery sort of effect, which I like. So distress ink will move around once you apply any sort of liquid to it. So I kind of like that. And I put some book page down. And then I just took whatever bits of ephemera I had and put them right on in there. So that's what's inside this one. So if you want to make that card, this little card here, all I did was I took, I had one of these jumbo size cue cards, and I coffee stained them way back when, so I had a bunch ready already. So I took these larger size cards and I cut the card down to 4.5 by 3.25 here. And then all I did was nothing too fancy. You don't have to be an artist to do this, but all I did was I just cut a basic shape. I cut down probably about less than half an inch down. It's less than half an inch down, and I just cut straight across here and created my tab. And with my scissors, I just literally went on an angle on both sides, and then I took my corner rounder or corner chomper or whatever you want to call this thing, and I rounded the corners on these 3 sides. That's it. It's not perfect, it's not straight, it's not even, it's just, it's raw and it looks fine to me, right? So again, here I did Mod Podge some old paper and then a piece of napkin. I had some old bits of lace and stuff, and I put a staple right through it. That's it, nothing too crazy. So I just traced sort of on this one so I could show you real quick. So that's the card that I said was 4.5 by 3.5. And then I just cut this on an angle, just kind of rounding that corner a little bit. Same thing over here, just like that. Then I cut about little less than ½ an inch here downward. I'm sure some of you also have some sort of punch or something that makes these cards. If you have anything like that, go ahead and do it. But like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not straight, but it looks fine. And then maybe round up the corners a little bit. And that's it. It just took literally 2 seconds. So like I said, at that point, you can go ahead and distress all around the edges with your ink. And if you would like to, use a napkin and some paper with some Mod Podge, and then you have a card. So that's one thing you can do. So that could go inside of there if you'd like. And then the other thing is, I was telling you about those coin envelopes. You can get these in a package. Dollar store has them, your craft stores. These envelopes are, I thought it was a little more organized. Sorry. This is maybe about 3 1/8 by 4 3/4 in size. And that's all I used. So I'm not going to go through the whole process of how I did it, but very similar thing, and I'll just show you. I took this envelope and I took my distress ink and I went all over everything. I just kind of lightly, but I went over everything because I know, again, that using the Mod Podge will sort of move around the ink a little bit. And so that's the first step that I did. You can coffee stain, spray coffee on there, let them dry, however you like to do it. But that's all I did. This one was just distress ink. I didn't have any coffee made, so I did it the cheap way, quick way, I should say. And then I took another piece of napkin with my Mod Podge. So I laid down a layer of Mod Podge, and then I took my very thin piece of napkin and found what I liked and attached it to my envelope. And then I put a layer of Mod Podge just to keep everything flat. I dried it with my heat gun and we were done. And then here is just some ephemera that I found, some colors that I liked. Put that in there. I distressed all the edges. Here's this simple paper clip. I just attached a piece of leftover lace that I had, and I just put it on a small paper clip, and I just put it right on there. And then you can also just put that, tuck that right inside. Okay, and then if we wanted to put some things into the front here, we could. I just pulled out a whole bunch of sort of ephemera that I had. Just a couple of pieces. We won't take too long with that. Let's see, we'll just put this in there. Okay, so I didn't, I could just put a little ink on here. These are just some tickets I got at the dollar store, and they have a bit of pink in them. And if you leave the tickets together, I kind of like to do the creases. It just looks a little nicer, a little more vintagey. So I just inked all of the edges there. So I'll just tuck those in the back. I've got something else here. We could put, both sides are nice. I kind of made those little things. And I have a little envelope I made out of book page. There's a little pink feather on there and some ephemera inside. And we could just place that right down in there also. Just like that. And a little while ago I had shown you these butterflies, packages of butterflies. They're all colors. I have pink and blue, and I know since I showed that video, many of you have been able to find these at your dollar stores or something like it at your craft stores. So that's what I used to create this little butterfly, and I just attached a paper clip to it to make a little paper clip. You don't have to do this part, but if you have, let's see if I can stick this on first. There we go. There, just adds a little interest. Just like that. So if you wanted to just do like a simple pocket like these ones, using those little cards and the coin envelope, then that's exactly how you would do it. So like I said, we just left off some lace or maybe a little piece of ribbon or something, but you could put something in through there. But look, it's super cute and it's nice and flat, and you have all the elements there. Okay, so that's the first one. And now I'm going to show you quickly putting in that little book. So same thing, everything is going to stay the same except for what you tuck inside of this. And you could keep all of this in there too if you'd like. But this little journal that I made for this project is a little different. I created these with these coin envelopes. And I used 2 of them and I put them together, and then I Mod Podged napkin over top of them and washi tape and a whole bunch of things, like just to keep them so that they have, it's like a cover, because I had to join 2 of them together, right? So that's what those are. And then this way you end up with a pocket and a tag up here. But it's a little bit more work than I wanted to put in for that little, well, that's not exactly true. I just wanted to find, let's say, an easier way to do it. So like I mentioned, I have a video where I made, actually I have this here, where I made these little journals out of glassine bags, and I put the papers inside and did some sewing around the edges, and using my napkins, Mod Podged them on the fronts. I showed you those, and then I showed a bunch of little tiny ones that I made. And I love these little books. They're super sweet, just with scrap bits of paper inside. So I went to check, and sure enough, they fit perfectly inside these little pockets. So instead of going through the hassle of creating a whole new journal, which was fine, but if you don't have that much time, then this works out well too. So what I decided to do was take a glassine bag, and I wrote down some instructions here. So a glassine bag that's about 6 3/4 by 5, and that's what this is right here. Okay. I trimmed down my edges with, I wrote pinking shears, but I did. So the actual finished one, you can see where I trimmed the edges, and both sides are open so that you can have pockets here as well, with my pinking shears. See the edge here? So I took my pinking shears to the edge here, and then I covered the whole thing with distress ink, or you can spray your coffee on it and dry it. And then I used my napkin and Mod Podge again and covered the front. You can, if you want, you don't have to do the inside, so I just did the front. I'll show you here. Right, just covered that with a napkin and Mod Podge. Then I took this paper, what I was left with, and I went to my sewing machine and I sewed around the edges. So I sewed across the top. I did not obviously come down the sides because you want to be left with some pockets. I came down with my sewing machine this side of the spine and this side of the spine. If you can see that. And then I went across the bottom. So a little bit of sewing. And you don't have to. You could just leave it. You could, you know, you could put trim on there or just use your marker to make little lines or nothing at all. So you don't have to do that. But I like the way the sewing looked on it. And then attach your book pages. Just like I showed you the other with the little envelope thing here, is the same way that I do these. I go through the middle and then I go to that side and I go to this side and I make a knot in the middle and attach my pages. Okay, and the pages inside of the book are about 4 3/4 by 3. Okay. And I just used some of my scraps. Sometimes, I don't think on most of these were scraps. I had to cut up some full sheets, but irregardless, doesn't matter. So that's the papers inside. And that's all I did. I used a glassine bag for the journal. And I didn't like completely decorate this one, but you could go ahead and decorate it more like I did with this. You can make tags just like these if you want to put them in the sides. Well, these aren't going to fit now, but you can make tags to fit inside of there. Maybe not with all of the stuff on it. You could make a closure just like I did here and decorate it up a little bit more. So back to the one that we were working on. If it's the journal that you want to do, then you can go ahead and fit that right in there. Like I said, the glassine bag journal fits very well at that size. And yeah, and I don't know how much room you would have if you wanted to put, you know, I still like the way that looks with that little tag. So I think I'll put that in there, okay? And then really quick, the last thing that we're gonna do is attach a little bit of lace up there. Not lace, ribbon. And I have these little doily bits that I love so much. This was actually a runner, something I got at a garage sale, and I've been using it for a long time now, and I'm still using it. I just go to it and cut up what I need. So I will just fish this right through there. And I don't tie a knot or anything, I just fish it through. And then because I'm actually gonna cover up my holes this time, I just apply a little glue here to put this one side down. And I'll put a little glue on the other side. And put this side down so that they're kind of opposite each other, like that. And then I'll take my little doily piece here. Tiny bit of glue on there. And I'm just going to place it up there. And then I'll finish the back. Just like that. So that's it, you guys. I think that came out really, really sweet. I really like that a lot. So I hope this helped a little. I hope you guys have a blast going to try to make some of these because it's really not that difficult. It's just a little bit of preparation getting things together. I also hope that I didn't leave anything out. If I did, just let me know in the comments if there's something that I skipped over or measurements or whatnot. But I think that's it. So you guys, you know, go and have a good time making some of these. Happy crafting to all of you. And thanks again for watching and for asking for a tutorial. It's my pleasure to do it, and there's so much fun to make. So I hope you guys are all doing well, and we will talk to you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.